ओम ज्ञानातिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप तदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी. Okay, I see my sister has joined as well. Hare Krishna. So we are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 8, text 37, 38, 39, and 40. Do any one of you have a book or want to read from the screen?
I could read if you have no other volunteers.
Sure, Mataji. Thank you.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So text 37. This is the chapter entitled Dhruva Maharaj Leaves for the Forest. Padam Tribhuvanotkrishtam Jigisho Sadhuvatpame Bruyasmat Pitribhir Brahman Anyar Apyana Anadishtitam. O learned Brahmana, I want to occupy a position more exalted than any yet achieved within the three worlds by anyone, even by my father and grandfather. If you will oblige, kindly advise me of an honest path to follow by which I can achieve the goal of my life. Wow. Purport. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. When Dhruva Maharaj refused to accept the Brahminical instruction of Narada Muni, naturally the next question would be what sort of instruction he wanted. So even before Narada Muni asked, Dhruva Maharaj expressed his heartfelt desire. His father, of course, was the emperor of the entire world, and his grandfather, Lord Brahma, was the creator of the universe. Dhruva Maharaj expressed his desire to possess a kingdom better than those of his father and grandfather. He frankly stated that he wanted a kingdom which had no competitor within the three worlds, namely the higher, middle, and lower planetary systems. The greatest personality within this universe is Lord Brahma, and Dhruva Maharaj wanted a position even greater than his. He wanted to take advantage of Narad Muni's presence because he knew very well that if Narad Muni, the greatest devotee of Lord Krishna, could bless him or show him the path, then certainly he would be able to occupy a more exalted position than any person within the three worlds. Thus, he wanted help from Narad Ji to achieve that position. Dhruva Maharaj wanted a position greater than that of Brahma. This was practically an impossible proposition. But by pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, a devotee can achieve even the impossible. One particular point mentioned here is that Dhruva Maharaj wanted to occupy an exalted position not by hook or by crook, but by honest means. This indicates that if Krishna offered him such a position, then he would accept it. That is the nature of a devotee. He may desire material gain, but he accepts it only if Krishna offers it. Dhruva Maharaj was sorry to refuse the instruction of Narad Muni. Therefore, he requested him to be merciful to him by showing a path by which he could fulfill his mind's desires. Should I stop here?
Thank you, Mataji. If you like, you can read the next verse also. It's not very big. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. Nunam bhavan bhagavato yongaja paramishthinaha vitudan attate vinam hitaya jagator kavat. My dear Lord, you are a worthy son of Lord Brahma, and you travel playing on your musical instrument, the veena, for the welfare of the entire universe. You are like the sun, which rotates in the universe for the benefit of all living beings. Purport. Dhruva Maharaj, although a young child, expressed his hope that he might be offered the benediction of a kingdom which would exceed in opulence those of his father and grandfather. He also expressed his gladness that he had met such an exalted person as Narad, whose only concern was to illuminate the world like the sun, which rotates all over the universe only for the purpose of benefiting the inhabitants of all planets. Narad Muni travels all over the universe for the sole purpose of performing the best welfare activity for the entire universe by teaching everyone how to become a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, Dhruva Maharaj felt fully assured that Narad Muni could fulfill his desire, even though the desire was very extraordinary. The example of the sun is very significant. The sun is so kind that he distributes his sunshine everywhere without consideration. Dhruva Maharaj requested Narad Muni to be merciful to him. He pointed out that Narad travels all over the universe just for the purpose of doing good to all conditioned souls. He requested that Narad Muni show his mercy by awarding him the benefit of his particular desire. Dhruva Maharaj was strongly determined to fulfill his desire, and it was for that purpose that he had left his home and palace.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Anybody else who would like to read?
I think I can read Prema Rasa.
Sure, Mataji.
Text 39.
Yes.
39. What is it, 39 and 40 or just 39?
39 and 40.
Okay.
Yeah. So Mataji read up to 38. So now you can start with 39, Mataji.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maitreya uvacha iti udaritam akarnya Bhagavan Narada Stada Prita Pratyaha Tam Balam Samvakyam Anukampaya. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The sage Maitreya continued, the great personality Narada Muni, upon hearing the words of Dhruva Maharaj, became very compassionate toward him. And in order to show him his causeless mercy, he gave him the following expert advice. Purport. Since the great sage Narada is the foremost spiritual master, naturally his only activity is to bestow the greatest benefit upon whomever he meets. Dhruva Maharaj, however, was a child, and so his demand was also that of a playful child. Still, the great sage became compassionate toward him, and for his welfare he spoke the following verses. Text 40. Naraduvacha janan yabhihita panta savai nishreyasasyate Bhagavan Vasudevastam Bhajatam Pravanatmana. Translation. The great sage Narada told Dhruva Maharaj, the instruction given by your mother Suniti to follow the path of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is just suitable for you. You should therefore completely absorb yourself in the devotional service of the Lord. Purport. Dhruva Maharaj's demand was to achieve an abode even greater than Lord Brahma's. Within this universe, Lord Brahma is supposed to be the most exalted position, for he is the chief of all demigods. But Dhruva Maharaj wanted a realm beyond this. Therefore, his desire was not to be fulfilled by worshiping any demigod. As described in Bhagavad Gita, the benedictions offered by the demigods are all temporary. Therefore, Narada Muni asked Dhruva Maharaj to follow the path recommended by his mother, to worship Krishna, Vasudev. When Krishna offers anything, it is beyond the expectation of the devotee. Both Suniti and Narada Muni knew that the demand of Dhruva Maharaj was impossible for any demigod to fulfill, and therefore both of them recommended following the process of devotional service to Lord Krishna. Narada Muni is referred to here as Bhagavan because he can bless any person just as the Supreme Personality of Godhead can. He was very pleased with Dhruva Maharaj, and he could have at once personally given whatever he wanted, but that is not the duty of the spiritual master. His duty is to engage the disciple in proper devotional service as prescribed in the Shastras. Krishna was similarly present before Arjuna, and even though he could have given him all facilities for victory over the opposing party without a fight, he did not do so. Instead, he asked Arjuna to fight. In the same way, Narada Muni asked Dhruva Maharaj to undergo devotional discipline in order to achieve the desired result. Thank you.
Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
Mataji. Thank
And I
you.
also want to let you all know that tomorrow I'm supposed to read. However, I have signed up to go to the temple for Lord Nityananda's appearance day, and it's going to be right at the time we have class between 4:30 and 6:30. I don't know what the slot time is that they're going to give me, but I would like to go to the temple since it's so rare that we get to go. So I'm going to pass on giving class tomorrow. I'm sorry. I don't even know how many people will show up, but I'd like to say that first and foremost. Thank you to all of you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Mataji, actually, yesterday my sister was also saying about this because it's festival. We might not be able to join as well. Like whoever is available, they can probably read. But if there is nobody who's available, then maybe we can read again on Friday. But
that'll be fine. And if the verses are not correct, I can just correct them on the schedule. In other words, if we don't get through all those verses, because if someone's there tomorrow, then we'll get through everything. Yes. But if no one appears tomorrow, then Leela Mandri will have to take the verses for that I was going to do on Thursday.
Yes, Mataji.
And then I'll just, I'll carry it over into next week. And somebody will have to let me know, well, I'll be on class Friday to know for sure.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Good. Thank you, Mataji. So, Sri Devi Mataji, would you like to share anything before we start from the verses you have read today?
Yeah, I could speak a little something. I apologize for not being able to make it yesterday, but I did read on my own. So I think that I have not lost the continuity. I would like to, I'm getting an echo. Is that something everyone is hearing? Okay, now it's not there. So we are doing text 37, 38, 39 and 40, and I read 37 and 38. So Dhruva Maharaj is openly, frankly, honestly revealing his heart to Narad Muni. He's clearly stating what he wants. In any situation, first we must be clear about what we want, and then only we can say it. If somebody says, "What do you want?" and I'm like, then it's like you don't even know what you want. So we must be very clear in Bhakti Yoga why we are doing what we are doing, what do we want to achieve, what is the goal, because Krishna consciousness is about goal setting and then achieving the goals. whatever little bit we may have, we must keep focused on that and try to work on it to get to the next stage. But here, now what is Dhruva Maharaj asking? He's being very honest. He wants something material. And what is that thing? It is so fantastic. The little 5-year-old boy is saying, I want a world, I want a position higher than even my father and grandfather. Now, his father is not a small man, he is the emperor of the whole world. The whole world, Bhumi, Mother Bhumi. And his grandfather is the great Brahma who has created the entire universe. So just imagine asking for a position greater than that of his father and grandfather. But he's saying, I'm willing to work for it. I'm not asking you to do me any favors. I'm just not asking for it just like that. Show me an honest path to follow by which I can achieve the goal of my life. So Dhruva Maharaj is a true Kshatriya. He's very valorous, he's very determined, he's strong, he's heroic, he's fixed on what he wants to do. These are actually the qualities of Kshatriya. If you look in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna described these are the qualities of Brahmana, these are the qualities of Kshatriya, and there he mentions all these qualities. So Dhruva Maharaj, true to form, is saying, this is what I am. And he's rejecting the advice originally given by Narada, saying this is all very well for a Brahmana, but it won't work for me. So we must know where we are at in our level of bhakti. We must know what is our first and foremost desire, and then we can actually speak very honestly with our spiritual masters and get the right guidance how to move to the next level. So Dhruva Maharaj is saying that I want a kingdom greater than even my fathers and grandfather, and he's being very frank about it. And so he's saying that if anybody can show me the way, you can, because you're a great devotee of the Lord, and he wants to achieve this position with his help. And Srila Prabhupada makes a particular point again here. He says that he wanted to occupy this exalted position not by hook or by crook, but by honest means. And this is the nature of a devotee, that he doesn't try to get something in a crooked way. He doesn't try to fudge and obfuscate and lie and cheat and manipulate and hoodwink and do all the things, which, is the normal material energy, which most people in Kali Yuga at least are like that. But devotees are not like that. We are trying honestly to achieve something in Krishna consciousness in order to please the Supreme Lord. But here, Srila Prabhupada is saying he wants material gain. But he's willing to work for it. He's willing to be honest about it. He's willing to follow the right way to go about it. And this reminds me again of that beautiful verse, akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. What is the meaning of this? Even if one is full of material desires, even if one has no material desires, or if he wants liberation, by all means, one must worship the lotus feet of the Lord. So it doesn't matter. I may not be having such pure desires that I'm saying, oh, I want to become pure devotee, I want to go back to Godhead or this or that. I may be thinking, oh, I want a nice material situation for myself. Then I can practice bhakti nicely. That is called mixed devotional service. Even in such a case, it doesn't matter. We must worship the Supreme Lord. We should not try to minimize the position of the Lord and try and go, to the Brahma and Shiva. And, this is like bribing the government officers, as Srila Prabhupada says. And we should go directly to the Supreme Lord and serve him very honestly, sincerely, with great determination, and just see what Krishna cannot do. He can do anything. If he wants to, he can offer you. Srila Prabhupada says, what can you hold with your 2 hands if Krishna wants to give with his 10 hands? And what can you hold on to with your 2 hands if Krishna wants to take away with his 10 hands? So Krishna's position is supreme. And Dhruva Maharaj understands that very well. And he knows Narada Muni, being the spiritual master and a very exalted personality, will be able to help him. So he says, please be merciful. Please show me the way by which I can fulfill my desires. And he glorifies him, because this is the way one must always be maintaining the etiquette. One must be very cognizant. There are 3 levels of interactions. We just read that. You make friendship with your equals. You're very compassionate towards those who are still, just learning the path of bhakti. And towards our superiors, we must be in the most humble, most respectful attitude of understanding how elevated, how exalted they are, and offer our glorification to them, and then seek their guidance, seek their advice, seek their blessings. With such an attitude, we can actually receive blessings. But if we are not doing that and we are offending devotees, then it is very difficult to make progress in bhakti, because it's like trying to start a fire but at the same time pouring water on it. So Dhruva is showing by this example about how respectfully he is approaching the spiritual master Narad Muni. You are a very worthy son, and you travel playing on your musical instrument for the welfare of the entire universe. And he refers to him like the son. You're just going and doing all this. Why? To benefit all the living entities. So he says that you are so munificent, you are so merciful, you're just like the sun. And just think, what is the job of the sun? It rises clockwork, every morning without fail, and it gives profuse sunlight to everything. Without the sun, what can we do? Srila Prabhupada describes, without the sun, we cannot light our fires, we cannot get heat, we cannot get food, because the plants live by the sunlight. They produce chlorophyll and all those good things which we learned in biology school. And that's how the whole universe is working. So imagine, without the sun, there would be no life, because this is a dark planet and we need the sun and the moon for illumination. So the sun is so merciful, so munificent, so giving. And Dhruva Maharaj likens Narad Muni to the sun. He says that you distribute, just as the sun distributes sunshine everywhere without any discrimination, you're also just going everywhere to benefit the conditioned soul. So says, please be merciful, please give me the path to follow so that I can fulfill my desire. You are so glorious that you can guide me. And this is the way to please the spiritual master. In fact, I think the nectar of devotion, I don't remember exactly where. I think there are the instructions, or I'll look it up and tell you, but there is the instruction that in the presence of the Guru, one must offer glorification to the Guru. One must not just sit there silently and, say nothing. After offering obeisances, after the Vaishnava etiquette, one must offer some kind of glorification, gratitude, appreciation, something for the Guru, and then begin to say, oh, Guru Maharaj, I have come because I need your guidance, your help, something like that. So that is actually Vaishnava etiquette, and Dhruva Maharaj is following it to perfection. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. It's always very nice to hear from you. Like, there's so many references and so many points that you always bring to the class. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for kindly giving me an opportunity and overlooking my absence yesterday and being forgiving and kind about it.
Mataji, you are doing a much bigger service. So we are very grateful, actually, especially in these times of COVID. Like, book distribution has become very rare because people are really scared to go out, but you made that brave move. So it's very inspiring, Mataji. Thank you. So for the next 2 verses, I will share a little bit, and then I will request as other devotees can share also. Actually, this is a very interesting section because just before this section, Narad Muni is actually guiding Dhruva Maharaj. into pure devotional service. So he actually shares, he's actually telling Dhruva Maharaj that you're a little boy. So, all these austerities are not for you. And he also says that I just thought that I will read a little bit from what we have already read. Yeah. So this is from text 33 translation. Narad Muni is speaking to Dhruva. He says, one should try to keep himself satisfied in any condition of life, whether distress or happiness, which is offered by the Supreme Will. A person who endures in this way is able to cross over the darkness of his science very easily. Every man should act like this. When he meets a person more qualified than himself, he should be very pleased. When he meets someone less qualified than himself, he should be compassionate towards him. And when he meets somebody equal to him, he should make friendship with him. In this way, one is never affected by the threefold miseries of this material world. So, actually, Narad Muni is telling him that one should be satisfied in whatever circumstance that Krishna puts him in. So, but the next few verses, Dhruva Maharaj, he is actually not in a position to accept what Narad Muni is saying. So he very, like Sridevi Mataji is also sharing, that he very honestly, he's speaking about his desire to have a kingdom that is greater than his great grandfather, just like Lord, bigger than, greater than Lord Brahma's kingdom. So I was hearing a class today on these verses, and my spiritual master was actually very nicely explaining about how it is actually a principle that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has brought into our lives. So his principles and the principles that Narad Muni is speaking are actually the same. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he also says, Nadhanam, Najanam, Nasundarim. So it means that we are not actually looking for wealth. We are not looking for women. We are not looking for any fame. All we want is devotional service unto the lotus feet of the Lord. So the desires that Dhruva Maharaj is actually expressing is actually not the desire of a devotee. If we see, it is actually the desire, like Mataji is also sharing, that he has some kind of a material attachment to have this very, very big kingdom. Therefore, it falls under the category of mixed devotion, because he's willing to do austerities for some material gain. So and then as we read more and more of these verses towards the end of this chapter, we will actually see that Dhruva Maharaj, actually he feels sorry for what he has asked for when he sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because very interesting fact, actually, what happens is that devotional service is so purifying that it can actually purify a person who is actually going to the Supreme Personality of Godhead with mixed desires. Like he wants a material gain. His desires are not pure yet. But even for those people, Krishna is so merciful that through his devotional service, actually everyone's desires, they get purified. And the second thing that is very important here is that Krishna is actually showing through the example of Narada Muni that even for us, even if it is a material desire, whatever kind of desire we carry, unless and until we have a spiritual master, it is not possible for us to actually execute devotional service properly. So in such a way that those desires actually become purified. Therefore, the presence of a devotion of a spiritual master in our life is extremely important. And the general example that Prabhupada generally gives is that we cannot actually go and meet a very high official like a president of a country without any reference. We need somebody who actually can take us, refer us to the president. Similarly, we need the mercy of the spiritual master to actually take us to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Refer us. We also hear that, Srimati Radharani, she was also similarly, when we chant, when we are asking for service through the holy name, Srimati Radharani actually, she offers that service of referring us to Krishna. Oh, there is this devotee who is very miserable, or there is this devotee who is really, really, really looking for your lotus feet. My Lord, please give yourself to him. And then Krishna sanctions such grand, such a request from Radharani. And actually, I was thinking about this also, that tomorrow is such a important day in the lives of all the Vaishnavas, that actually Lord Nityananda, who is the representative of the spiritual master, he is the spiritual master of everybody. He actually does the same service of taking even the Jagais and Madais, people who are the most fallen, to the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And without the mercy of Lord Nityananda, we cannot receive the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And without the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one cannot access the mercy of Srimati Radharani. And without the mercy of Srimati Radharani, there is no way one can actually reach the lotus feet of Krishna. So the mercy ladder actually begins with our spiritual master, who is representing Lord Nityananda. And as we read in this chapter, we will actually see that the deep respect and the deep reverence, the deep gratitude that Dhruva Maharaj had for Narada Muni, it actually helped him purify his desires. Although in the beginning he was not ready to give up, like we were reading, that he's not actually ready to give up his desires. He wants, no matter what, he wants to get have this big kingdom which is greater than the kingdom of Lord Brahma. It is not a small desire to actually, even if we think about the desire itself, like it's not a desire that normally people would think about. So we can only imagine like how how greatly he was actually thinking. But in all of this, his attachment to the kingdom, his attachment to winning over the words of his father, all of this actually did not allow him to think, or did not allow him to actually absorb the instructions that he was receiving from Narada Muni. Because Narada Muni, he is a direct son of Lord Brahma, and Narada Muni is the you can say it's like the he has the benediction of having bhakti potency in fullness. So he is like an ocean of devotion. It's like wherever he goes, he is actually distributing devotional service to everybody. So therefore, he has this ability to be able to give devotional service by the empowerment he has received from Krishna. And he was willing to give that to Dhruva Maharaj. But Dhruva Maharaj was not at that time ready to accept what he was receiving. Although Narad Muni knew that it was the greatest gift or the greatest thing that one can receive is devotional service. But still his heart was very closed. He was not, like Mataji was also sharing that, we might ask, or we have 2 hands to receive, but if Krishna is giving us with 10 arms, we cannot really take that much mercy. And similarly, if Krishna is removing or taking things away with 10 hands, how much can we hold with our 2 little hands? So in this case of Dhruva Maharaj, he was actually receiving so much mercy from Narada Muni. But at that time, his heart was closed and he was not ready to actually give up his attachment of having this very great kingdom, greater than his great-grandfather. But eventually, because of the sincerity that he had in his devotional service, because of the gratitude he had for his spiritual master, because of the willingness he had to follow the instructions from his spiritual master, his desires actually become so purified. We will hear that even the demigods, they become scared by the austerities that Dhruva Maharaj is performing, because he was able to control the whole air from the entire universe. So such is the potency of devotional service, that with devotional service, something that is impossible becomes possible. And how is that possible? Because of having that representative of Krishna in our life. That is the essence of these verses, of how Narada Muni is actually guiding Dhruva Maharaj from of all the desires he is asking him to fulfill. And like Mataji is sharing that actually it is very important in spiritual life, in our devotional service, to have this goal and to have that clarity of goal, because unless and until we don't know what the goal of devotional service is, we really don't know where we are heading. And actually in Krishna consciousness, Srila Prabhupada has actually emphasized on the goal so many times. Like almost in every purport, he speaks about how important it is to actually go back home, back to Godhead, and not suffer in this material world. But if we see, there are so many other spiritual organizations whose goals are actually not defined. People are misled, and people are actually, after many years of doing austerities and doing all sorts of different things, they still don't know where they're heading. Actually, I remember when I was studying in college, when I was doing my engineering, there was this girl who who's very strict. She was actually associated to one of the spiritual organizations who I did not actually know at that time, but they're basically Brahmavadis. I got to know it later after I passed out from college, that they basically are into Brahman, where they say that everything is one, and we're going into light and things like that. So they're called Brahma Kumaris, and she was actually part of that organization. she actually used to, although we all used to go, and then we all used to hang out together and eat together and do things together, she was one of those people who would not mix with anybody. She was always on her own. She'd always have her meals by herself. She would not eat anything outside. She would not do, like, that means that from a very young age, actually, she was performing a lot of austerity in terms of eating, in terms of sleeping, in terms of meeting people, in terms of like how we do now as devotees. She was doing even before I was a devotee, even before I knew anything about spirituality. She was doing all of those. And later, actually, I got to know about her spiritual practices and in the organization that she is associated with. And then I actually felt bad for her, because the same energy, if somehow she had invested in actually associating with the right organization, she would have made so much of spiritual progress. But unfortunately, in her life, she did not have that kind of a spiritual master, or she did not have that person who actually brought her to the right path. And for us, I really feel like somehow we have received this, I don't know what, I would say that, at least for myself, probably I was in the right place at the right time, that we had devotees in our life, and somehow through the mercy of devotees, we had the mercy of a spiritual master, and we are able to actually perform some kind of devotional service, even if it is not with a pure heart, but at least we are trying. And more so that we are trying with the right goal in our head. We are trying with the right people. We are trying with the right process. And that is actually going to determine and tell us that one day we will actually reach the goal. So I will quickly share one story, and then I will end so others can share also. I had heard this little story that there's a boatman, and there was a person who were sitting in a boat, and they were actually trying to cross the river and go to the other side. Now this person, actually the boatman was rowing the boat all night, and the next day morning, they realized that actually the boatman was rowing the boat in the same place. The boat had actually not moved, although he was rowing all night, because the boat did not move because the anchor was still in the ground. So although he was rowing, he actually forgot to remove the anchor from the ground. So the boat did not move. So therefore, it is very important for us to actually understand that although we may be rowing the boat all night, although we may be actually doing so many austerities, we may be performing things that are very, like here, even Narada Muni is saying that these austerities are so difficult to perform that even big yogis, they fail actually after um, taking up these austerities. Even they do not reach the goal. So for us, unless and until we actually don't know, we don't have this expert boatman who can remove that anchor, can remove our attachments and help us row the boat to the other side, we will be in the same place. We won't make any progress, no matter what happens. So we are really very fortunate that we have those expert boatmen in our life who are actually taking us to the other side. And since it is Nityanand Trayodasi tomorrow, actually this section that we are reading is a very nice meditation of the important role of the spiritual master in our life. So I will end here, and then I will see as other devotees want to share.
Hare Krishna, Premarasa and Shridev Mataji, thank you so much for sharing about the verses that we read. And yeah, Dhruv Maharaj's pastime is definitely unique. And there is so much to learn from his pastime, his honesty and his determination and his willingness to take up the austerities and give up his attachments eventually by the mercy of the Lord. And thank you for very nicely explaining about the nature of our attachments. It's very, very hard to see our own attachments, but it's necessary that we have some recognition of our attachments so that we may not be able to give them up entirely, but some recognition is also helpful so that we know what they are and we can find a way to work with them. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for sharing. Anybody else would like to share something from what we have read or discussed so far?
I have a question. And by the way, thank you very much for everybody sharing and shedding so much nice light about, about these different verses. My question is, so let's say we have an attachment, me to my children or to whatever security, whatever it is. And so is this attachment, has it come from my previous life as well? Are all our attachments like, life after life, because we're here because we have these attachments, right? We're not attached to Krishna, we're attached to something material. So are these materials these attachments playing out, life after life, the same ones until we get it right? Or if I go to another life, does that mean that like I'll start at the beginning of that life and develop attachments for that specific life? I just want to know like how long these attachments could they have been like following me from lives, or is it just from this particular life that I have become attached to whatever I'm attached to at this point? Hare Krishna.
My understanding is that our lifetimes are, our attachments are coming from many, many lifetimes. Because like at the end of life, the gross body gets dissolved, or whatever, we burn or whatever. But actually the subtle body, which moves to the next body, actually it carries those impressions, it carries those attachments to the next life that one may undertake. But at the same time, I will request if other devotees would like to share as well. That is one reason why it's so difficult to actually give up attachments, because they don't pertain to this lifetime. They've been coming from many, many lifetimes. And did you ask another question also, Mataji? Or was it just this? I thought
It was pretty much is it coming, from previous lifetimes, these attachments, or are they pertaining only to this particular lifetime? So if what you're saying is they're coming from previous lifetimes. So if they're just playing out with a new family that you become attached, let's say you're attached to your children or money or whatever it is that you're attached to, it's just playing out in a different situation. And Krishna, is it also tied to our karma as well, our attachments, or not? I'm just wondering if that's
Yeah.
another.
Actually, if we see even in this very lifetime, if we see that our attachments play differently with different people, like the same trigger we may get from different people also. It's not that they have done something to us, but it is mostly that what we are carrying inside of us that gets triggered when we are in different situations also. It happens in this very lifetime, because that's the lesson that we have to learn. That's why Krishna keeps putting us in that situation again and again and again until we learn that lesson. And once we learn that lesson, then we see that we actually, such situations don't trigger us anymore. So it is actually not the people or the circumstance, but it is that feeling or that attachment that we carry, that, oh, this needs to happen in this way, that actually triggers such a feeling where we get disturbed, and so many other things come out. So like we have these expectations, we have whatever we are carrying inside of us. So that's mostly because of the lesson that we have to learn. And we have seen it ourselves. Once we have learned the lesson of for something, then we don't kind of get into such situations that we were previously, we thought we were in. So
Gurudev has said that, like, you're in your specific family, or you're in a group of friends, or you're in whatever it is, whatever you find yourself in, it's no accident. You're there for a reason. So,
so true, Mataji. I have heard a similar thing also, that we were never given a choice to actually select our parents. We were put in such a situation that so somebody actually became our parents, somebody became our sister, somebody became our whoever, brothers and relatives. And just like you are sharing, that we couldn't choose those people, we couldn't choose our we think we choose our friends, but I have situations where I had absolutely not liked people, and they became my best friends later. And I have also had situations where I thought, oh, these people are my greatest friends, and then eventually we never talked after some time. So like you are sharing that, things happen for a reason. So
so
Devi
Sridevi just asked.
asking, what is the question? Can you share with her one more time, Mataji?
Okay, so Sridevi, my question just was that with, I don't know, I've kind of asked a few questions. The first one was that does like our attachments, are they formulated just within this particular life, or have they been formulated and just keep repeating from life after life until we no longer are attached? And Mataji said, Pramarasa said that that's why they're so hard to get rid of, because they are coming from life after life until we fix, until we become attached to Krishna and not attached to whatever these attachments are. And then I asked if our attachments are tied to our karma, and she said yes as well. Maybe you want to add some more to that, Sri Devi, or clarify maybe what how I repeated it, prema rasa.
First, I want to apologize that suddenly my laptop conked off and I didn't even understand what was happening for a few minutes. I had to plug it in, so my apologies. Absolutely, I totally get what Premarasa Mataji is saying. I think that whatever she's describing is exactly what is described in the scriptures also, that our attachments go back to millions of lifetimes actually. Our anarthas, attachments, desires, likes, dislikes, even hatreds, fears, anxieties, all these are embedded in our subtle bodies, and we are carrying it life after life in our subtle body. Gross body we give up, but subtle body carries all these things from millions of lifetimes. We are just entangled in all this until we receive the mercy of the pure devotee and begin the devotional process, which actually begins the untanglement or disentanglement, as we should say, from this network that we have caught us, we are so much caught in. Yes, absolutely, on the dot. And karma is tied up with that, because whatever activities we carry out, what goes around comes around, and we compound our problems by increasing our entanglement in the material energy life after life after life. So it's literally a network, like a fish. We are caught in this network of illusion. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for adding, Mataji. Manisi Ganga Mataji, anything else or anything else from anybody who hasn't spoken or would like to share? We can end in 2 more minutes if somebody wants to share something.
I'm thanking all of you for all your comments and guidance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji, for always bringing up interesting questions and points. Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much. My humble obeisances to each and every one of you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to our Gurudevs. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So if we don't have any further comments, so then we can end here. Thank you all very much for joining. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.